Jet as this project director, working with this big project, systemic project in Limpopo. But obviously the work that Jet did was framing you to be the next CEO. And you came at a time when Jet had transitioned from being a grant-making organization in the early 90s to something that was a service provider, doing some impact work in education, research evaluations, and the like. So, as the CEO of Jet back then, what was your vision and how do you see it taking place now?
The first thing to say is that the transition of Jet from a grant maker to a service provider was well planned and well executed. It ran for about 6 or 7 years before I joined, and by the time I joined, we had a clearly defined education challenges in the sector, and we better understood the challenges that provinces and the national department were facing, and therefore my vision was to align the capabilities of Jet to addressing the big gaps in the system.
You've mentioned a number of challenges that you've had to respond to when you were leading Jet. So maybe just consider the challenges that we faced back then as Jet, what challenges we were responding to, and what challenges are we still facing now, and tell us a little bit about the advice for Jet going forward into our next 25 years.
An appropriate vision for Jet should not be behind the developments in the education sector, and neither should it be way ahead of the needs in the sector. The big needs that we've come with in the past, from the past decade in the sector are low performance in mathematics and languages. We know that in the advent of technology, the kind of skills that we need to produce in the system have changed, and they've continued to change. And the truth is, the educationists today do not know exactly how to prepare kids for the future. So that's the gap that Jet should engage in.
Being at Jet for so long, you obviously developed some relationships with some key people. So tell us about some role models or mentors, people that really influenced you and influenced Jet into what it is today. Tell us about how Jet shaped you and how you are today.
Jet was in a fortunate position. It had a good mix of directors as well as CEOs. So I was quite lucky actually to have worked with Nick Taylor, who was a well-established in the sector, well-read, and I think he took a capacity building and of the young people who worked around him quite seriously. So I've learned a lot of rigor and the kind of educational analytic discipline, if you like, and how you get to deal with work with the system from Nick. So in that respect, I mean, Nick has been a role model of mine for all these years.
So what do you think has been the main contributor for Jet's success and for Jet being around still 25 years later?
So at the center of this, I think it's good leadership, which has translated into good planning and as well as monitoring on an ongoing basis.
Okay, now for a nice, good feeling question, and that is, thinking back in everything that we've done, what do you think is Jet's greatest achievement?
Jet has done a lot of good research, which has influenced policy, which has kept the investment decisions of huge budgets that are being put in education in line, and it has created a lot of capacity, which has ultimately got to serve in very important and key positions in the education sector, and even much broader in development. I mean, if you take the former deputy director of Jet, Mr. Mesh Tipo, he's one of the longest serving and quite effective directors general. So in some, Jet has contributed to knowledge that has driven policy in education. It has built capacity, and I think it's contributing on a daily basis to creating energy which is required to support the work of the National Department of Education.